Okay. Okay, you're live.
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Housing, Urban Development and Zoning Committee of the Board of Aldermen for Thursday, October 20th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar. Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Evans.
Present.
Chair Davis.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Oh, he's connecting. Alderman Cone.
Present.
Alderman Kotar. We have 5 present.
Thank
have a
you.
quorum.
Do we have minutes prepared for October 13th?
Yes, we do have to approve the minutes from October 13th.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes for, what was the date? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
October 13th.
October 13th. Second.
It's been moved in second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Evans.
Aye.
Chair Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes.
Thank you.
Thank
We've
you.
approved the minutes. I'd like to let me see here on this agenda. The first item on the agenda, would you please read the board bill number and the preamble, please?
Board Bill number 53, introduced by Alderman John Kotar, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated June 3rd, 2022 for the Locust Street, North 6th Street, Pine Street, North 7th Street area in the city of St. Louis. After finding that the area is blighted as defined in section 99.320 of the revised statutes of Missouri, 2016 as amended, the statute being section 99.300 to 99.715 inclusive, and is blighted as defined in section 353.020. Finding that there shall be available up to a 20-year tax abatement at 95% of the assessed value of the incremental improvements, and pledging cooperation of the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you very much. I'm going in and out on my stuff here. Because I was going to carry Alderman Kotar's bill until he got here. There's come back. Okay, do we have any speakers on the bill, please?
Yes, ma'am. We have speakers from SLDC. Let's see if they're present. I do not have any present.
Okay. And do we have anybody on the public speaking side?
No, ma'am. There's no one on public speaking side.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I apologize. I'm a couple minutes late.
Okay. Or did you want to hold Board Bill 53?
Yes, I'd request that we just hold Board Bill 53. This was a redevelopment agreement, tax abatement for the Railway Exchange building. It's been widely reported the proposed developer, walked away from this project just in the last week or two. So unfortunately, we're kind of back to the drawing board with the St. Louis Development Corp and city leaders trying to find a suitable developer for one of the largest buildings in Missouri that's sitting vacant in the middle of downtown. So yeah, I'd like to just table it and hopefully we'll find somebody else to tackle this project.
Well, I thank you very much for the explanation, and that does happen. So we shall continue to move forward and hope for the best. All right, Madam Clerk, the next board bill, please.
Board Bill number 94, introduced by Alderwoman Lisa Middlebrook, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a transportation project agreement relating to the Lighthouse St. Louis Transportation Development District and containing a severability clause.
Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Thank you, members of the committee. So this, a little background on this project. This is a entertainment district. It will be anyway, an entertainment district, which will feature a hotel, restaurants, conference center, water park, and retail and marina space. This is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to use my hands. This is a TDD. And what it is, the board bill authorizes the city to enter into a project agreement with M2 Development Partners, and the developers will construct a portion of the Lighthouse Landing project at its own cost and expense, and the city will reimburse the developer for such costs using revenues granted by a sales tax imposed by the Lighthouse St. Louis Transportation Development District. I do have some speakers here for this, I'm sorry, to talk on this project. So that's what I have.
Okay, so let's swear in your speakers, please.
Do you swear to tell the truth? I'm sorry. Do you want them individually or all grouped?
No, if you could just list the name, call the names.
Okay,
And then they can open their mics if you swear them in.
okay. Ed Tinsley. Ford Martin, Daniel Cook, and Dave Sweeney. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, I heard and see 3. It said, how many you had?
Mr. Ed Tinsley is not at present.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Then we've got them covered. Alderwoman Middlebrook, who would you like to have speak first?
Any one of them. I don't have any particular order.
Okay, so I'm going to go to, there you are, Mr. Cook. So you're going to lead the discussion and you can bring in others as you see fit.
Great. Thank you, Chairwoman, and members of the committee. As stated by Alderwoman Middlebrook, this is a board bill to allow the city to enter into a project agreement with the Lighthouse St. Louis Transportation Development District. This district already exists. It was formed by the St. Louis Circuit Court back in February of 2018. And there is a sales tax of 1% that was put in place effective July 1 of this year, 2022. So this agreement would allow for reimbursement to the transportation, through the Transportation Development District, to the developer for various costs. I believe most people were in the meeting on Tuesday. I believe Alderman Kotar was not. So I do have Ford Martin here from the developer who can go into some more details about the nature of the project for those of you that weren't present on the previous meeting. But this is basically an entertainment district that's going to be built in phases, the first two phases being about $325 million. And this project is going to be located in North City, just a little bit north of the intersection of I-270 and Riverview Drive. And the main components of this project are going to be a indoor water park and hotel, another hotel, bunch of restaurants and food venues, and a marina also. I would say that the tax in question here, the TDD tax, is going to be generated by the hotels, mostly the food and beverage outlets, and by the water park and any other amusement venues, and those will all be primarily land-based. I don't see much, if any, of the sales tax being generated from anything that might end up on the water side of things. And that the reimbursement also at this point would be for just the land-based portions of this development, not for anything that might end up in the river having to do with the marina. So some of the items that would be subject to reimbursement would be, for example, the street grid that's going to have to be laid out for this project, and that's currently being designed by PGAV, hasn't been finalized yet. And so it'll be the streets, all the curb cuts, all the entryways into this particular development. None of that stuff exists right now, so that's all going to come out of the developer's pocket and then potentially be reimbursed by the TDD. There's also plans for a boardwalk, a public boardwalk, a public river walk, additional things that could be subject to reimbursement through the TDD. There's an idea for a trail and exercise trail with some stations in this area that also public that would be available for reimbursement from the TDD. We're talking about parking spaces which don't exist right now. When Ford Martin comes on from M2, he'll show you what's there now. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the area where we're going to build, but right now it's basically a green space. So all of this stuff is going to have to be constructed basically from scratch, along with some of the infrastructure that has to be brought in. For example, for the lighting along the streets and entryways and all that stuff. None of that stuff was to the site, so that had to be run in by Ameren and obviously built up to the level of use that this particular development would be required to pull that much electricity. There'll also be some landscaping and hardscaping around the streets and other public areas of this development that would be allowable under this agreement. So again, we're talking about a tax that would be in addition to the city taxes. So with the TDD, there's nothing being taken or being foregone from the city. This is just an additional 1% tax that would apply to everything that would be subject to sales tax within the boundaries of this district. So I think that kind of gives you the high level of what we're looking for today, is just to get this agreement signed for this pre-existing transportation development district. With that, I will turn it over to Ford Martin at M2 Development Partners to give a brief description of the proposed project.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to the board for having us this morning. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I do realize that most of you have already seen this presentation, so this is a pared down version, if you will. The overview of the project, like Dan mentioned, is a 67-acre waterfront site on the Mississippi River, just north of the Chain of Rocks Bridge. It's located within an opportunity zone, and it's a themed destination development, like Dan mentioned. This next slide will give you a better idea of the location of our site. Right on the Mississippi River, just north of the site will be the St. Louis Zoo Wild Care Park as well. This is a site aerial that Dan was referring to. facing north. As you can see, we have upwards of 1,500 linear feet of Mississippi River waterfront at this location. There's currently a gas station that's right here in this corner if you drive by the site right now. And this is a high-level rendering encapsulating what Lighthouse Point could bring to the north side. Tourism, hospitality, retail, the potential of this site to be a landmark destination for St. Louis. And this next slide breaks the project into 3 phases. Again, this gives you an idea of the order of operations that the work would be performed. Phases 1 and 2 would be built simultaneously, and we would keep our finger on the pulse to see what would be best for the city in phase 3 while we are building phases 1 and 2. And that was the short version of the presentation. Like Dan said, I think many of you have seen the full presentation on previous meetings. I'm more than happy to send that out to anybody who would like it.
Okay, thank you. Dan, continue.
I think that may be what we were prepared to present. We're obviously here to take questions. As Ford indicated, that was an abbreviated presentation of what's going to be designed and built there. So if there are questions about that in more detail, we also, as the representative of the company, would be responsible for the administrative filings that are associated with the TDD. We'd be working with the Department of Revenue with regard to the sales tax, their local government unit. We'd be working with city officials to make sure that the project is built to the city codes with respect to the streets and all the other things that are required to meet city specifications. And we would be filing annual reports with the state auditor, with the Missouri Ethics Commission, to make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed with respect to administration of the Transportation Development District.
Okay. Alderwoman Middlebrook, did you have anything you want to add before I go to the committee for questions?
No, ma'am, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Alderwoman Davis, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Chair Davis. I do have an additional speaker, Mr. Tim Green.
Oh, okay. We don't want to leave
Mr.
him.
Green, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Mic's off. Yes, I do.
All right. Mr. Green, go ahead.
My name is Tim Green. I am,
Mr. Green, can we see you?
tell me how to get this to, okay, hang on.
There.
There we go. I'm a 59-year-old, so I tend to have a little difficulty at times with modern technology. My name is Tim Green. I am Director of Government Affairs for the St. Louis Electrical Connection, which is a labor management co-op of the IBW Local 1, which consists of 4,000 active workers and 3,000 retirees and about 150 electrical contractors. Our members have their own individual annuities, and I do sit on our annuity pension board. There are investments we make, and one is to an investment firm that does work throughout the nation with M2 development. For us to invest our funds, we want to see local projects. This is one of those local projects where the investment fund in which we are investing is one of the backers of this project. So I come to you from our organization in support of this project. And on a personal note, 50 years of my life, I grew up right in this area. I previously served 22 years as a state representative and a state senator from North St. Louis County. The site you're looking at used to be the North Shore Golf Course.
Yeah.
In my youthful days, I did golf on that golf course and did swim in the swimming pool. Due to the 1992 flood and the 1995 flood, that golf course closed down and became a clean fill, which the people that did the fill did a very responsible job. The only thing I had to do at times was remind them to clean the road of the mud. But they have raised that. And now for many years, there have been several opportunities for developments that we have recruited. One with the assistance of the Board of Aldermen back in the late 90s is they wanted to build a truck stop Moto Mart there. And we were successful with the aldermen in the city to stop that because we didn't think a truck stop was needed at that intersection, because the following intersection of Lilac and 270, you have 2 truck stops there. So we did not want that intersection to be a kingdom city, so to speak. So now you have an opportunity to really put a face as you come into Missouri and the city of St. Louis across the Chain of Rocks Bridge on a great development. We have always tried to promote using the Mississippi River for some type of access, kind of like they have in Alton of a marina. And I think as a former public servant, this is a win-win for the region. North of there, not just is the zoo, but is also the conservation park. A little quick history on the conservation park is the city of St. Louis owned that property up until 1997. Back in the 40s, they purchased that property to actually build the airport, Lambert, and they made agreements with all the farmers up there they could keep farming. The city never went to that development because it was in a floodplain. So in 1997, then Mayor Freeman Bosley negotiated for $17 million the sale of that property to the Missouri Department of Conservation. So you will have the zoo, which the pipe fitters sold their property to, and they're doing a development because of the recent sales tax passage. And then you have the conservation, and I think this is just another bright spot of a possible development for North St. Louis and North St. Louis County.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Will you stay available for questions?
Sure.
All right, thank you. And that's the last speaker, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we do have 2 individuals who are in opposition.
Okay. Normally we do. I'd like to just go ahead and get all the speakers out of the way, okay? If you don't mind, go right
No
ahead.
problem. Jerry Connolly and Michael Berg. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, I'm gonna need a video from you, Mr. Connolly.
I do swear to tell the whole truth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so who's first on your list?
Jerry Connolly.
Go right ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I spoke a couple of days ago on the resolution regarding the tax abatement. I asked a series of questions at the end and I didn't really get any satisfactory answers. So a couple of the questions I'm going to ask kind of, are duplicates, and I'd really appreciate members of the committee having these questions addressed by the developer, and if they're present, by the members of the St. Louis Development Corporation staff. So firstly, it's kind of a pretty major transparency issue. I finally received the developer's application for the incentive package, and that application was dated October 11th. The Port Authority Board kind of approved the initial agreement with the developer on September 8th. So I think we've got a kind of major process issue here, whereby it seems like, by handshakes or sitting in a Zoom room or a smoky room, developers are able to advance projects without even having an application on file with the Development Corporation. So I feel that's a major issue that's very disturbing to me. And in light of the fact that 3 members of this elected body were indicted 4 months ago, I'm very concerned that we don't have measures in place to protect against potential, nefarious activity, illegal activity, and, the same kind of pay to play activities that led to those indictments. A question I asked on Tuesday that I'm glad Mr. Martin referenced, that there is a gas station on this property. And from the map that's attached to this particular board bill, it's not clear whether that property in the southwest corner sits within this transportation development district. So can someone please clarify, does the gas station sit within that district? Is the sales tax being collected on any of the retail sales from that facility? So those are 2 questions there. Third question, is that gas station benefiting from the proposed tax abatement? The process here at the Board of Aldermen has 3 pieces of legislation going to 3 different committees, which is extraordinarily complicated, and I don't think it serves the board well, and certainly doesn't serve the public well to understand how all these components of the legislation fits together. I understand that the TDD was formed in February 2018. I've never seen one of its meeting notices posted on the city's website. I presume they filed their reports as appropriately with the city and state. I guess I can check the latter. I don't know how easy it is to find out the reports sent to the city. But I'd really like to know who is currently sitting on that board, what their affiliations are to the current owner or the future owner, and whether any city officials are sitting on that board. Because I guess starting about 2 or 3 years ago, there were representatives of the comptroller or SLDC appointed to some of these taxing districts, but I believe this TDD might have preceded that. So if it's possible to amend the district bylaws and make sure there's someone appointed from the city, I think that would be a prudent step. Final item I'd like to mention is the fiscal note for this board bill was authored by Mr. Cook, who with Cook Riley Law Firm, who's the attorney for the developer. So I begs the question, why isn't the Board of Aldermen or SLDC writing the fiscal note for this bill? And who is actually writing this bill? Does the Board of Aldermen write the bill? Does SLDC, or does the developer's attorney write it? Be really interested in having all of those questions answered, and hopefully you'll be able to do that within the next hour or so.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
so you heard this testimony by the speaker. I'm sure that you and your staff have taken appropriate notes, and all responses shall be sent through the Board of Aldermen clerk, and they will be forwarded to the speakers as well as the members of this committee.
Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mike Berger.
Hello, yes, thank you. My name is Michael Berg. I'm here representing the Sierra Club Eastern Missouri Group. The Sierra Club has 730 members in the city of St. Louis, and our organization opposes all tax abatements, exemptions, and incentives for this particular project. And before I begin, want to note, testimony is very similar to the testimony I provided against Resolution 110 on Tuesday, and submitted in writing too. And it's also a lot of the same points that were brought up by Charles Miller, the Missouri Confluence Waterkeeper, and David Stokes of the Show Me Institute, and for years with the Great River Habitat Alliance. And I am sure they might have submitted testimony. It's hard when there's all these hearings on the same matter multiple times in a row. So it was written in collaboration, actually with Carolyn Pufalt, who is our conservation chair. And after reviewing the project, we oppose this. The development's a risky investment, which could very well not provide the city and its residents the value for the tax favors granted. This approximately 70-acre site sits on a 100-year floodplain, and yes, it has been raised, but it's still a risky endeavor, and it's not clear the possibility of water going around and cutting it off as an island. It's still very risky due to the power of the Mississippi River. We are just south of the confluence. Again, the land has been raised. We're not really happy that it's been raised. You need to have floodplains. And this is yet another sort of narrowing of the Mississippi River. The golf course, which once occupied some of the site, was severely damaged in the '93 flood, as has been mentioned earlier. After that flood, the U.S. Army Corps sponsored a major interagency flood study of the area entitled Sharing the Challenge, Floodplain Management into the 21st Century. It was published in June of 1994. That study is still widely held as a comprehensive look at the Mississippi River flooding, with the St. Louis area at its center. Unfortunately, most of the recommendations in the study have not been implemented, and due to climate change and more development, flood risks have only risen in the area. So it's still a problem even with the raising of the area, and using taxpayer dollars to fund or to help subsidize development in that area is very short-sighted. And if you want to look at an example, the repeated costs incurred in the Maryland Heights development behind the Howard Bend levee is an example of this phenomenon. And I also just want to mention, as was brought up and discussed in the hearing on resolution 110, the issue of the proposal for the marina and the landing is something we're especially worried about. This area of the river does not seem to be conducive to recreational boating. You've got the bridge, you've got the rocks, the bend and the channel that make it riskier for boating. And that's why you have the barge channel is all the way on the other side of the river in the canal. And there's worry boats could be dashed on rocks, could be a problem as far as hitting into the main water intake for St. Louis water. And for all these reasons, we oppose this bill.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for your testimony. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
So you've heard the testimony. We do know that you have a partner in this that has much experience, as was mentioned in the meeting on Tuesday, who has developed more than 400 of these similar types of developments. And we also know that there are approximately about 15 different agencies that have been working on this development and have a lot of due diligence done already and will do more, and are absolutely responsible on a federal, state, and local level for the safety of a project like this. You will be working with them. You will be providing us with that information as we move forward and have a true development in place. We're in a pre-development stage right now. If there was anything that was asked of you on Tuesday, please continue to follow through to send that information so that we can have it available. At this moment, there's no reason in a pre-development stage to go to the lengths that some of the requests are, but we shall do it anyway. We know that you are trying to get to a point of having the appropriate documents and things in place in order to start the financing process. If you do not have a city government entity that is supporting you, and most especially the local level, nevertheless the state level, no bank is going to talk to you. I know that. So we are in pre-development stage, and we shall continue with this conversation. We shall continue to have information provided to, unfortunately, 3 different committees. It would have been nice to have it at one, but we are where we are. So what we'd like to do now is move on so that our committee members can ask any questions if they've heard anything new and/or would like to request some additional information. Madam Clerk.
Those are all the speakers.
Okay, very good. So we'll move, oh, what an echo. Okay, we'll move through with our committee members. Alderman Cone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm actually en route to a doctor's office. I just had to pull over on the side of the road. I'm trying to listen to the conversation here. I would say, the matter that we're discussing is the TDD. One of the questions that I do have pertaining to the TDD, which I think was mentioned earlier during the presentation, was that it was authorized by the circuit court. I'm not familiar with the process where the circuit court authorizes a TDD unless it's been legislated. So I suppose I think that was the attorney for the project that mentioned that. If they could provide some clarification there. I don't know if they misspoke or what, but TDDs aren't generally authorized by courts.
You would like Mr. Cook to clarify that?
Yeah, I believe it was Mr. Cook who mentioned that in his opening remarks.
Yes, I did. And all TDDs, as a matter of fact, under Chapter 238 are formed by the petition that's made to the circuit court in the county in which they're located.
Okay. So going back then to Mr. Connolly's question, this has been authorized for a while there, for several years at this point, it seems. So if that's the case, then, who are the board members of the TDD? Have reports been filed with the state and city?
It's the Danielles. Yeah, we can get you the information on the board members, but it's mostly the current landowners and some neighbors that live in the ward there and Ward 2.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And effectively what happened, Alderman Cohen, is that the district has been dormant for a number of years because this project had been brought up to this board in 2018, and at that point in time didn't get across the line. So it had been sitting for a while until we got a new development group that was willing to take another shot at it. So that's why there's been this gap in time.
Alderman Cone, was that your last question? Okay, I'll move on now to Alderman Kotar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Anyone on the development team can handle this. I know we're here only on the TDD portion of this project. Can someone just sort of give me a general idea? And I apologize if I missed this in the initial slide deck, but what sort of public improvements, I mean, it's a TDD, so obviously this is for public improvements in the right of way primarily. What are we going to be funding? What do you propose funding with this TDD?
I think I mentioned, Alderman, some of the items, the sidewalks, streets, curbing, public boardwalk, public river walk, public exercise trail with stations along it, certain public parking spots, about 400 surface parking spots, certain lighting of the entryways and parking lots and streets. Some of the, again, landscaping and hardscaping, again, associated with these public areas that were mentioned.
Okay, thank you. I have a comment and then I guess one more question. As a threshold issue, and the chair spoke to this, and so did Mr. Conley. I mean, it is a little crazy that we're looking at a development project in 3 different committees. In recent years, we've made some strides to avoid doing this, where we would send, SID and TDD legislation that corresponds with the larger development project to one committee. I think all of these bills should be sitting in the Housing, Urban Development, and Zoning Committee, so we could have a discussion of all of them at the same time. I mean, this is unfortunately a misuse of everyone's resources, including the folks working on this project that you're having to bounce around to all these different committees. My second question, and I don't know, anyone can handle this from the development team, or if anyone from SLDC is here, what is the Development Corp's position on this project more broadly? I missed the, I guess, long discussion at the transportation meeting the other day, but where is the St. Louis Development Corp? Are they in support of this project? That's my understanding. I actually don't have any idea. So if someone could enlighten me, or if someone is here from SLDC or one of the affiliated entities with SLDC, that would be helpful.
Yeah, this is Dave Sweeney. Dan, do you want to discuss the scorecards? And yes, the short answer is yes, they are in support, Alderman, but
thank you.
Talk about how it graded.
Yes, I will address that. There doesn't appear to be anyone from SLDC on here today. So the scoring was done by SLDC, and it came up with a 5.0 score for, I believe, the water park portion of the development, and a 4.75 score for the hotel and waterfront development portion. Out of, again, those scores are out of 5, so it's a 5 and a 4.75 out of 5.
Got it. Thank you very much. I have nothing further, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know this is all preliminary. I'm excited because finally something is coming forthwith in North St. Louis. I guess my confusion is, and I'm still looking at myself as a newbie, for years we were approving tax credit tips and all this and all other parts of the city, and we didn't have the fight that we have in now. And so now we have people that don't want us to get the tax credits and all of this. And they was created because of our communities. And so I applaud the developers that keep pushing to make this happen, because my question is, and the residents that are living over there are excited about this. And I don't think nobody even brought them up. They're really happy that something is coming in our area that hasn't been for years. But I know at least 20 years, it hasn't been development in our area. And so I'm excited about it. And so all I'm asking is for people to open your eyes and see what's going on around us, because it's just real strange to me. Now it's a big issue and everybody wants to stop all of these benefits for these developers to come into our community. And it was created for our community. And so they've already had the pie. And so again, you all want us to deal with the crumbs and not be able to get what we need in our community. So I applaud you all for being diligent about this. But like I had told some of the residents, why did it take 20 years for this to come to this point? So that's all. I thank you all for keep coming back. But I just think this is just really crazy that we got to fight so hard just to have something in our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Ryan.
Thank you, Chairwoman Davis. I agree with my colleague from the 7th that it's kind of confounding here that we're in 3 different committees on this same project. And I wish that that was not the case. I still have many of the same concerns that I had in HUD's regarding the environmental effects of this project, particularly the phase 1 of this project. I think like I said, the renderings of it look really neat, and I'm certainly not opposed to development on the north side of the city. I do continue to have concerns regarding the effect on both the Port of St. Louis and the river as a whole, as well as, some safety concerns on that particular stretch of the river. I would really like to have more information on that aspect of this before voting to proceed with this. We had the, I guess, opportunity in HUD's to hold the bill, and I don't imagine the sponsor would want to hold the bill in this committee, and I understand that why they would want to move forward with it. But at this point, I can't be supportive of this without more information on the environmental aspect and safety aspect of it. So that's just where I'm at with it. That doesn't mean that I'll be a no as we move forward, if I can get some more information on those aspects. That's just where I'm at today. And thank you so much for coming out again to present this project. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Alderwoman Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I only have a comment, and that is I piggyback off of what Alderwoman Boyd stated earlier, that I'm excited to see this development take place in our part of the city. As she said, we have backed certain projects in other parts of the city. So I'm hoping that we get favorable backing from the other alder people on this project, because it's long overdue, the development in North City. And, what we want is to see our city grow. And North City is a part of the entire city. So again, I'm hoping that we can get this development going and pass through. That's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. For me, I just had one question. On the due diligence that has been done on this project most especially over the last 7 or 8 years, Mr. Cook, could you indicate to me if those results can be shared with us? Because I know every agency you can think of has been involved in this project over the years. I've been in and out of the project based on my time constraints, but have been very supportive of it over the years. So could you give me an answer on that? Because, and let me clarify, I don't believe that I am that concerned about safety. And I say that only to say that we have so many agencies that they are required, they will do, it is their job to do the due diligence and tell us whether or not we can move forward. I do know from my past involvement that is the reason why this project is still moving, is because most of that has already been completed. And for all of us who do some traveling, you know, there are thousands of wharfs, riverfront entertainment, marinas, and every type of body of water you could conceive of off of the Pacific, off the Atlantic Oceans, and many, many large lakes. And those things are done with a lot of due diligence, with the same types of agencies that are established here. Many of them are federal. We have state and local. And you have no choice in the matter. You will work with them whether you wanted to or not. So back to my original question, is there any of that that you can share with us? Because again, we're in pre-development, I know that, and there's a long way to go with more due diligence before we even get to the final approval. So can you answer that, Mr. Cook?
I will try, but you mentioned kind of the key to this is that we are in pre-development. We've really been working with Edgewater Resources just from earlier this year. And as you said, they've done over 400 of these projects. And we have, as we discussed on Tuesday, had preliminary conversations with many, many federal, state, and local agencies. But because it's not designed yet, because we don't really have a plan to put in front of them for them to review something concrete, we certainly haven't gotten anything back saying this is a bad project or that this is not doable or anything along those lines. But it's just premature for us to have a study yet that says this particular plan, which doesn't fully exist yet, has been given the stamp of approval by agency A, B, and C. But those discussions are ongoing. And as you mentioned, there's no way that we can get this done without all of those agencies having to do a professional review with their professional staff on all the issues that you've mentioned, and ones that were brought up on Tuesday as well regarding safety and environmental concerns. Those hurdles all have to be cleared or it won't happen. It just can't. If they don't sign off, the project can't be done.
Well,
So,
I am aware of that, and I just wanted to put all of that out there because we really hadn't set those things yet. And the other part to that is all that you do towards that goal, however much money you spend, that's your loss. And you move on. That's what happens with developers. When you do your pre-development part, due diligence, you're taking a chance on that project and you spend a lot of money up front. And it's not the city spending it for you. So we will have a lot of interaction with this project in many different ways, with many different departments of the city of St. Louis, most especially those that we have immediate contact with. And as we move forward, if at some point we get to the final design and approval of all those entities for this development to move forward, we all can be very, very comfortable with the fact that nobody's going to let your company or any other company build something that is not safe. And you don't read about, and I'll tell you what came to mind this morning when I woke up is Galveston, Texas. How many times have they rebuilt that, but it was sure worth it for that community. So with that, I end my questions. I'm going to ask one more time if there's anybody else that has any questions, if a new question came to mind for any of the committee members. I see we have some additional alderpersons that are listening. If you are interested in speaking, Madam Clerk, could you watch for me? Would you please raise your hand? I'll be happy to allow you to speak.
Okay, we have Annie Rice.
Okay, let's go. Alderman Rice, go right ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to ask questions when I'm not on the committee. Specifically, so for the TDD, you mentioned 400 surface parking spots were being contemplated for this site. Do you have any intention of using, solar coverings or other more progressive green energy creating and sort of self-sustaining parking facilities? It sounds like we've got a really creative and forward-thinking boat slip situation on the river, but wondering if you could use these TDD funds to be just as creative for vehicles.
I guess I don't really have an answer to that yet. That hadn't been something that's been contemplated yet, but I think we can, Ford is here with the developer, and I think that's something that could be considered, but I haven't heard any discussions around that yet, because again, I think we are in the pre-development phase, but that's an interesting suggestion.
Okay.
If I may, sorry to interrupt, Ms. Rice, but absolutely that would be one of our main considerations. The majority of times we look at projects, we're looking at having projects LEED, if not well certified and accredited. Being a sustainable builder is a very high priority for us.
Thank you. That's really helpful, especially building on one of our most precious resources, environmental resources. That's really great to hear. Are there any mass transit connections that are being contemplated up there? I'm not sure if the bus line runs up that direction. Would there be any conversations going forward with Metro about that type of thing?
I think we have reached out to Bi-State about what their intentions are with regard to extending bus service. I'm guessing with the new zoo facility that's going to be opening up the road, that there will be something. So that is something that we've reached out. We haven't necessarily gotten an answer yet.
Okay, I appreciate that. The last time that I can remember that a major TDD project came in front of the board was a housing development that took place right along the Metro link. And so it was really important to that development that it was reducing parking and trying to incentivize folks to use that mass transit, use the bus lines, that type of thing. And so that came to mind as this project came forward. So the other piece, I guess I'm curious about, so there you've got some idea of what you're going to be using these TDD funds for. So you talked about, sidewalks and riverfront and parking and those types of things, but you don't actually have the design done. So I guess I'm curious kind of the disconnect between, we know what we want to use this for, and we've got a solid amount that we've presented, hopefully to SLDC on to warrant their approval of a TDD, but we don't have specifics to where that's in front of this committee today about the specific uses and the specific build. I guess, can you help me figure out how we bridge that gap?
Well, I guess what I talked about was what was filed also with the circuit court. So that was something that you had to disclose to the circuit court. And obviously that was back in 2018. So there may be some modifications, but it was generally at the time it was filed with the court. That's what the funds thought. That's what we thought the funds would be used for. So that's kind of maybe a little bit of why there's a timing disconnect here, which leads us to where we're here today.
Okay, and so if there are changes to what you're planning on using the TDD funds for, do you come back in front of this committee for that?
I think we have to go back to the court for that.
Okay. Okay, well, I think that's the extent of my questions. I appreciate you all being as forward thinking as possible, because it's, as much as this community deserves a quality development, they deserve a clean, a reuseful development that is really going to benefit the most people. So thanks for helping clarify those questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, please, Madam Clerk.
I do not see any other hands raised. Gross, okay. I see Gross.
and Norma Walker.
Good morning. Morning, Madam Chair. I just wanted to slightly push back against some of my colleagues who might say that this should only be in one committee. I do think that a project like this touches a lot of things. And, for me, for one, I mean, I think that if it didn't have the Marina component and we're building the, water park and all that, then put it in one committee and I would be all for it. And, but I think that, if we're talking about, an incentive portion and HUDs, but we're also talking about adding an entirely new kind of mode of transportation on our river, it would seem to me that, the transportation committee should be able to weigh in and talk about it. I would also just say, and briefly, and then I'll be done, that, I think that, I completely agree that the project can be full. And I actually think some of the economic benefits, if it really would come to fruition, are actually minimized with these numbers. I think this could actually be a lot bigger of an economic impact than some people are even thinking. But what I would say, though, and what I would ask, if we would have another meeting with the developers, is really just bring the Marina subcontractor at the next meeting so we can ask them questions. I mean, I get the fact that, you can't have a full stamp of approval for the whole project from every single federal agency. But I do think that, it's the responsibility of this board to ask questions and to, figure out, the project when it comes in front of us. And I think the transportation committee would be a good place to, ask questions of the person that's actually going to be operating the Marina. And if this person really is, if this company really is as experienced as people, as you guys say, and have done all these projects, then I think even without, stamping, they should be able to answer some questions and maybe alleviate some concerns from some members. So, I don't know what kind of written things were submitted yesterday by my colleagues on the transportation committee, but all I would just ask is if we have another one, that the subcontractor that's actually responsible for the Marina component would be there to answer questions. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir.
Alderman Walker, did you, I saw your hand raised. Did you have questions?
No, ma'am, not a question, just a comment. Madam Chair, members of the committee and guests, I just want to say as a new alderperson, how excited I am to be here for a project that's coming in the north side of St. Louis. I've been a resident the majority of my life here, and this is fantastic, and I'm excited, and I thank the developers for continuing to try to push this process through, and I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. No other speakers?
No, ma'am, I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay. And I think I asked the committee members if you have any new questions.
Yes, you already asked.
Okay.
You did.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to close with saying I am super excited about this project. This is something that we as residents, we as Alder people have been asking for North St. Louis development. This will bring jobs, this will bring entertainment, this will bring the simplest things like sit-down restaurants into North St. Louis. This is a district that will bring in tourism for our area, and it's an exciting time in St. Louis right now. So I would just ask for your favorable consideration in passing this out. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The chair is open for a motion.
I move that we adopt Board Bill 94 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Cone. Alderman Kotar.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Orion,
No.
Alderwoman Evans,
Aye.
Chair Davis,
Aye.
Alderman Cone. You have 4 aye votes.
Okay. So your vote has adopted Board Bill 94 to move forward with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you.
Madam Alderwoman Middlebrook, I just wanted to say to you and your community, get busy, talk about housing to be developed across the street, and also get busy with Ameren and get yourself a solar park out there, not just covering a garage, get a solar park. Money is available on a federal, state, and local level.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will start that right away.
All righty. I bragged about you yesterday, and people were so interested in that. They have read it in the news. So I'm excited for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, our next board bill.
That is the last board bill.
I know what happened. Okay, no, they decided not to put it on there. Okay, so let's get everybody was present at some point.
Yes, I have 6 present.
That's right. Okay. Is there any other discussion from members of the committee? Anything you needed to know about and/or share? Okay. Hearing none, we know that we are scheduled for every Thursday that we are doing business until the end of the year to try to help move forward as much work as possible before we start having holiday breaks and everything else. So I want to thank you for attending today. I want to send a message to the development of this developers of this project that everyone is attentive. We're all going to work together and we're all going to be as transparent as possible. But most importantly, you have no other choice with all these many agencies that will be involved. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Voice, second, I don't hear this, I didn't know the voice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Be safe out there.
All right.